Hey everyone, how are y'all doing today? My name is Crystal Myers Barber, and today is June the 13th, 2023. I have two amazing guests in studio with me today, and we're going to go watch. Just check this out. I'm going to introduce them in one moment. So thanks for tuning in. Hope that just, anyway, sorry about that. And today I have Robert with me. He has made 106 trips to 38 different fires, and he calls himself a forensic arborist. And we also have Tiffany Anderson with us today, and she's dealt with chemicals. Her background is chemicals, and she's been an applicator for the state of California in her past. Now, we've wanted to do a video for quite a while together, but since the fires began out in Canada, where 200 fires just broke out last week, that brought national attention, and also they were talking about the state of New York, and they highlighted all, just some states in around the area. We really just needed to get together and talk. And I want to introduce you. I did introduce you to Robert, but we're going to open with Robert. He's just going to go, we're going to go through some pictures that I think are very just amazing. And so we're just going to start with that. Just one moment. Let me bring this up. Sorry. So anyway, Robert, if you just want to I introduced you already, but if there's anything else you want to add to what I said before you start explaining some of these pictures.
Why, sure. I've been studying the plants, the whole plant kingdom for 48 years, my whole adult life. Native plants such as wildflowers, ferns, shrubs, vines, and trees, my strong suit. And also imported plants from around the world that they plant around our neighborhoods here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Was a certified arborist for 20 years, but during COVID, I didn't want to do their Zoom calls to get my extra points to remain an arborist. So I struck out on my own. I don't need certification anymore. And I renamed myself a forensic arborist because that's what I am now. I've been to I've been to 38 fire aftermaths, 106 trips to them, analyzing them all and finding anomalies that don't make any sense. They're not normal wood fires that we know of or forest fires. There's something totally different. And before I start my slideshow here, I saw this on the internet years ago, what Tesla said. And what he says here is the exact truth. It's happening right now, if everybody wants to read that.
When buildings turn to dust, when wars are created out of that dust, when the populace on the planet defend the perpetrators of the most heinous crimes imaginable, when power, greed, and money trumps all goodness, somehow we hope.
Yeah. I don't know. We got to keep our hope alive.
Yes.
And this is one of the first pictures I saw of Santa Rosa fires here in California in 2017, I believe. Things didn't look right to me. I see the McDonald's at the top of the screen, the gas station to the right, and the Jack in the Box below are missing. There's a pile of scrap metal there and nothing else. But what I saw more than anything was the trees around the whole area that didn't burn up. And they're calling it a forest fire. That didn't work very well for me. Next slide. Upon analyzing that fire, 5 different trips within a couple months, I started seeing things that didn't add up at all. And on the internet, I was looking for any kind of clues to find out what is going on. This is one of the pictures I found where a big, I believe, Monterey cypress is burning from the inside out and nothing else is on fire. That was very odd to me. Lightning doesn't react like that. Lightning will split it right down the side, split it wide open, or put a stripe down it. It doesn't put little holes everywhere and just burn the inside. There's less oxygen for one inside that tree, and it looks red hot in there. Next slide. This one also was on the internet. The fire's nowhere else, and here the whole middle of the tree is just burning up like crazy.
Robert, I have a question for you.
Sure.
If these aren't normal fires, what are you thinking? What is your belief or hypothesis of how these fires are starting?
I believe these fires are starting from the inside and working their way out. They're cooking from the inside out.
And what would do that?
The only thing I know that could create that type of an effect would be a microwave. It cooks vegetables and whatever you have from the inside out. And the foods that heat up the fastest is actually water. Water in a glass of water in a microwave opposed to a glass of chili. The water heats up much faster. The chili might take 3 times as long. That's what I've noticed is happening with the extreme water lovers and regular water loving trees. They're the first ones to cook from the inside out, while the sappy pines and fir, spruce, larch, all those hemlocks, so forth, they're burning from the inside out at a much slower rate. And those are the more flammable saps.
So when you say microwave, we're talking about directed energy weapons. Is that correct?
That's right. Exactly.
All right.
That's what my conclusion was after a lot of research. This is a stump up in the Kincaid fire above Santa Rosa, California. These are coast live oaks, the #1 oak in California. Evergreen, drought tolerant, holds a ton of water. And it's rare to find a cavity inside of an oak tree unless it's a big old grandfather oak, the oldest trees in the forest. Not young, vigorous ones. You don't find cavities, but yet these were probably leaning over the road and burned up to some degree. So for safety, they cut them down, and they're all burned from the inside out. And I saw many of these up and down the Kincaid fire footprint, all along different roads. And oddly, they're very quick to get rid of all the trees. Tree companies would come in and get rid of all the materials, cut them down. And almost every tree company I saw had brand new trucks, excavators, chippers, everything. I mean, brand new.
They're planned? Are you saying like they were planned, like they knew that?
Like it was planned, and whatever company stepped up to do the work, I believe they were given a whole bunch of this equipment. One of the companies was out of a little town between Placerville and Auburn on Highway 49, a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, and yet they had all this giant, beautiful equipment, brand spanking new.
Just ready to go, huh?
Yep. And other fires, the same thing, brand new, and always plenty of white trucks, just a support truck to put equipment in, a pickup truck, a Chevy or Ford or something. There'd be a fleet of these brand new white trucks, all different company names. And I did research some of the companies, but it was odd that there was no used equipment. These things were right off the showroom floor.
You know what's ironic about that is where I am. So you two are in California and I'm in Nevada on the northern California border. And right as you're coming out of Tahoe into Carson City, they are taking these logs and they are preparing them probably to go overseas to China. But we have a big logging area now where it wasn't there. And now all of a sudden, this last season, they've been going up and harvesting all the trees.
Wow.
Yeah, just as you're talking about.
This photograph is from last year. They said, there's a fire near Yosemite, right next to Mariposa on Highway 49. And I saw a few pictures. And I thought, I'm going to go up there for the day and analyze this because I already sensed there's foul play. So I drove 140 miles for the day, and I stayed all day there, went up and down every road I could, talked to many people. Everywhere there was anomalies. This is a blue oak they're usually pure stands of blue oak forest. And they hold a ton of water like any oak tree, very drought tolerant. And this is a young tree. The leaves didn't burn on it. It broke apart, and I could see it burn from the inside out again. and also around the trunk, way down at the ground level, with hardly any combustible materials except leaves and a little grass or needles. You don't get that kind of burning that low. Flames go upwards, they climb. There should have been more black up and down the trunk. But, and I'm finding this everywhere, 2 inches, 3 inches, except for the pines. They'll have black trunks 80 feet in the air, but not one needle will burn. So this is paradise from the air. It's not my picture. This is second growth ponderosa pine and probably some white fir with it. The houses are missing, yet the pines are all there. They're probably dead, a light shade of green or even brown, but they didn't burn up. And what kind of flames miss pine trees, burn a house so it's beyond any shape? There's no room left. There's nothing, just a pile of metals. And the needles did not burn.
You know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yep.
so what I'm seeing are the trees there and the houses are gone. And I do believe in the directed energy weapons because my friend has seen them, before the fire starts, seen the lasers go into the trees, got pictures of it. But we can't discount also that they put those meters.
Yeah, the smart meters.
The smart meters. And so we have a mutual friend, Orlean. I believe you know Orlean.
Orleans, I do very well.
Yeah, okay. And so she had her meter removed and her house was standing in Coffee Park. And so, I think that's one reason why these houses are, triggered, because they have those smart meters connected to them with the lasers.
I believe that probably is a percentage of the targeting, like a targeting device. The only things I see extra is I'll find sheds separated from the house, not close, or garages, or the cars out in the middle of the street somewhere, and they're all toasted. Same thing. So, and they're not right in super close proximity to the houses. And Orleans told me that same story. So that's probably partly right. It probably is. It's a smart meters. Anytime I see the word smart, I don't buy it. I don't buy smart water. I don't believe in smart fires, smartphones. And smart is a bad thing.
It's one of their keywords, probably.
It probably is. That last picture, if you go back one, this is paradise. In paradise, they had 10 mobile home parks. These people are generally retired or don't have much money. Either way, they're not well off. They're not the millionaires that want to live in a mobile home. All 10 mobile home parks were gone. And here you are, probably a drone footage. There's pines all the way around it on every side. Where did the fire come from? Above, look up, and that's where it came from. And here's the number one pine in California. We have 22 species of pine in California. This one is the number one pine in all of California and the number one tree that burns the most in any forest fire around the whole state. It occupies the largest land. So it burns more often than any other species. On this day, it only burned between the rows in the middle. And even there, the fires didn't do the best job. Why are there twigs? Even if the needles come off, there should be no twigs.
Robert, so can these trees be logged?
Yes, they can. I noticed that.
What is a trip? It's like, okay, so they are burning. They're burning the subdivisions and they're harvesting the trees.
The trees, I've seen the crosscuts. They have too much heartwood. I should have had piles of that, pictures. I've looked at their logging piles. Now, these are young pines. These are 40 to 60 feet tall. These are babies in the pine world. They would have 95% sapwood in them, hardly any heartwood. Maybe a little quarter inch in the dead center of the tree that is dead tissue, heartwood. These are 90% or more. But yet when I saw them, they were cooked from the inside out. And I look at the pattern of the cut, and the sapwood was only about 10% on the perimeter, and the whole middle was dead heartwood. I don't know how fast it happened, but they all died internally and didn't combust, I guess, the ones I saw. So, and they weren't cracked. So they were ready to be logged. They were dried out perfectly. But they acted like they were 90% dead. And I have pictures of those piles from Big Basin, redwood trees. I have Douglas fir up in the Calistoga area. Here's this big pile. Why is there 90% heartwood? This makes no sense. Anyway, and you look at these trees, they're all dead. They were slowly cooked like a marshmallow on a fire. Don't catch it on fire. With huge flames, they should have been gone because they called it a firestorm. Same place. It could be a different mobile home park. Right? One of those is a house. I'm not sure if that's a mobile home, but they're close together. So I believe they were mobile homes. And how does fire go up and down and through the trees and miss the trees and burn down just the houses? I'd say it's impossible, but it happened. Wow, there's a digger pine in there too in the foreground, right center. That's a digger pine. There's some cedar in there. All these are flammable. And there's the lawn in the front yard, nice green, rich lawn. And many times you'll see these overhead shots, and when you zoom in, you'll find plastic garbage cans all around the neighborhood that they forgot to take away because they're extracting all plastics and other materials off your property before you come home. They're stealing things off your property. We'll get into that later. Next slide. That's the first one I ever saw 7 years ago.
Where's that?
That's Santa Rosa from the air. It's the most damning picture I've ever seen. And firemen try to explain it away with their fire lingo. This is real simple. All the trees are there and the houses are just missing. 4,700 homes in the whole area are gone.
What area?
This is Coffee Park in Santa Rosa. And it went all over the hills, but this was the main area. All those houses are gone. Horrific. Amazing. And if you look close here, there are garbage cans. They're out there. But I saw that 7 years ago, and it made no sense to me. So I started my research, and it took me a good year or more to find Fire Captain John Lord and Matt that did the Paradise analyzation. Whew. And they confirmed my suspicions, what I found out about directed energy weapons. I'd been studying it really hard for a year or a year and a half.
Do you know where some might be located?
The weapons?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they put all kinds of laser weapons on all military craft, whether it has tracks, wheels, floats, or flies. They have them on everything. But remember what President Reagan said in the early 80s, and we laughed at him. He says, we're developing our Star Wars defense system. So Matt and John and I, we all three believe satellites is the culprit. Satellites aren't just for communication. And how do you move a fire 8 or 9 football fields a minute? These huge winds come out of nowhere. I believe the winds are the concussion of the laser as it's moving across the planet. It's moving very fast. It's pushing things, the wind. And
okay. So Lawrence Livermore Lab and Sandia Labs are near Tracy, California, Livermore. And they make lasers there and laser technologies. So right out of Lawrence Livermore Labs comes laser technologies.
That's true.
And then also, as far as the winds, there's the HARP technologies.
True.
HARP is, there's one in Area 51 here in Nevada, and there's a HARP, and then there's also HARP in Alaska.
Yeah.
And so these winds come from HARP.
Yeah, it's a gate. It's a gas.
It's a heating. It heats. It's like a heater.
Right. Also in the Santa Rosa Valley there, years ago I researched, and there's at least 4 laser companies situated along Highway 101 in that corridor.
Wow.
Who knows if they have anything to do with it? The most burned counties in California with the population is Lake County, Sonoma County, Napa County, and what's the other? Santa Rosa. Those 3, and another one right there. Northern Bay Area. They've burned so much of that property. It's unbelievable. Over the last 7 years, I've seen a map, a layover of all the maps of all the fires. They've burned everything. Only a few towns are left. All the hills on every side, those counties. Lake County, most of the Clear Lake was burned up in the, away from the homes. 2 years ago, the Lake Berryessa fire, it burned all the way around Lake Berryessa, every side, went from Highway 80 all the way to Calistoga. Same year they did east of San Jose, that entire range, and Big Basin, and Point Reyes, and Lake Sonoma fire, and Salinas fire. They burned the whole Bay Area up, the countryside.
Think about our El Dorado Hills. Was it last year? We had I-5 between I-5, 99, and 88, all on fire.
Oh yeah, now those pictures are in here.
Yeah.
Next slide.
And then Elena Freeland, she talks about how people have laptops and they can skip homes and they know who to burn up and who not to.
You get narcissistic 25-year-olds with no family, no friends, no brothers. They make big money doing what they're told. They could care less about anybody.
Well, just think about, in Napa, Nancy Pelosi has vineyards there, and nothing burned. None
Of course,
of burned.
Wow.
of course not.
Right.
This is one of my most damning photos. There's some firemen in the back on the yellow. I got in there quick and they didn't kick me out. This is a place called Isleton on the confluence of the McComney River and the Sacramento River. There was a mobile home park and they had a little grass fire. 21 of their mobile homes burned to the ground. There's eucalyptus trees there. Most combustible leaf I know. They didn't burn up. But here's the wooden deck where you walk up the steps, open the door, see the door frame? Right? That's the door frame to walk in your mobile home. Why is that wood deck not burned anywhere? Especially on the other side where the mobile home would be touching it.
That's why, because there's no conductive, like metal conductor, right?
It shows you right there. It's not a wood fire. That would have been the first thing to burn. Instead, all the metals heated up, the aluminums, and here's the wood. What kind of fire does not burn wood when it's touching the objects on fire?
Which are smart.
That shows you right there. This is a different type of fire. Crazy picture. Next picture.
Sorry. Oops.
This is the outskirts of Big Basin State Park. Around the perimeter, I took every road. Here, the redwood trees were black, but the needles did not burn. The tan oak leaves are in the foreground. They didn't burn. A house is missing to my right. Here's that plastic swimming pool, a plastic tarp, the plastic canopy that fell over, probably because there's one bolt in there that was metal and it heated up. But there's not a hole anywhere in the plastics. Why didn't those get burned up?
So what you're saying is that microwave technology doesn't burn plastics, and
Right.
plastics
They're microwave safe.
That makes sense because you put things in the microwave and plastic is okay.
That's right. Unless it's next to metals, whether they're ferrous or non-ferrous. Because I noticed aluminum rims out in the yard, they're melted into a puddle by themselves. And a grass fire can't do that.
But you're not allowed to put, metal containers and things in microwaves because they obviously do this.
That's correct. That's where I came up with the idea or theory that this must be a microwave fire, because that's what I'm finding. You'll see in all my materials here. It's
I just got it, I guess.
Yeah. It hit me. This is all shock treatment. I swear.
Just boom. It's like.
Anyway, that's one property, and I think the next slide is also, yeah. They didn't just set this canopy up. To the left now is the house, and it's gone. This is the redwoods, same area. And a couple months later, the ferns are starting to grow and sucker up a little bit in the redwoods. So here's a canopy you put your table under. There is a table there. Was it made of asbestos? I don't believe so. Not a hole in it. This is a nasty forest fire. Synthetic. Put that in your microwave. Piece of cloth. Nothing happening. Amazing. Yeah, they took the whole Big Basin Park away from us. Incidentally, when they're doing these fires in park settings, they close them off, and when they reopen them, they make you get online, your computer, to get a day use permit to go in, like Yosemite. And the island of, it was one of the Hawaiian islands, the road to Hana, 10,000-foot volcano. You can't drive on it anymore unless you have a day use permit. You can't go to Yosemite, day use permit. They did it in Big Basin. I drove in, they said, oh, we don't take cash. And where's your day use permit? I was lucky to park in there. This is just within the last 6 months because they had extra spots. But I analyzed the main parking area. Nothing was normal. And the rangers didn't see it. And right here, evidence all you want. Next slide. Wow. This is I guess this January or February, I went up to Weed, California, to the west side of Mount Shasta. And they had the mill fire. It was a lumber mill that burned up. I saw a picture on the internet. The only thing on fire was the roof that was metal. and then it burned down a ton of houses. The forest is black, but the needles are on them again. No needles are burned or even on the ground. The needles fell. See them everywhere? They didn't burn. The cars are toasted like 9/11. Windows are melting out at 2,500 degrees. The windshield, 2,500. Forest fire tops out at 1427. It can't get to those temperatures. And the gas, everybody says, well, the gas tank blew up. No, the gas tanks are intact. They didn't blow up. Nothing left but metals. Some of the alloy rims will chunk out in pieces, like the back rim there. They chunk out in weird, odd pieces. I think they're alloys. They're not pure aluminum like some of the rims. Because I think pure aluminum, it will melt out into a perfect puddle. And you'll see them farther on here. Ask any fireman if they've ever seen a car window melt out. And they'll say no. And they'll look at you like you're crazy. In the city, they're either shattered or broken, but they're not melted out. Yet every single car I've seen, with no exception, all the windows are melted out. Even when they sit alone, away from all combustibles in a parking lot, not even grass under them, the windows are melted out.
So what you're saying is the metals are so hot that they're melting?
Yep. Not over 4,000 degrees, because all these metals start melting around 4 grand. Right in that vicinity. Depends on metal composition. But aluminum, 1221 for that aluminum rim. That's pretty darn hot. And my fire captains both told me a ground fire that's moving in the grass at 2 inches high is only 300 degrees. So why are these rims melted out? Anyway, next picture.
But all these pictures are your.
Right.
Them.
This is my brother's picture. I finally talked him into going to one of these things. House is missing. This is Big Basin, a little bit higher ground, because there's pine and Douglas fir in here and a palm tree on the left or something. But the house is gone. Where'd the fire come from? And there's that swimming pool.
I think, again, laser to the smart meter.
It could be.
Laser to the smart meter.
And they don't, yeah. And I've come up with a conclusion that the ground itself is on fire from the metals, and whether they're ferrous or non-ferrous, there's metals in the ground, like miners. They're always digging up different types of metals, because the bottom of the trees will be burned or hollowed out, and the roots and everything, and the trees fall over and they're not burned. And it could be from a lot of spraying also. That's not my area, but it could be that could be another part of it, the spraying. This is a damning picture. My brother took that one. I'm glad he did.
What do you mean when you say from the spraying? What is the spraying effect?
Well, the different types of chemical sprays that they're, bombarding with us daily. All these
aluminum.
The only thing that's blowing my mind that I can't figure out, though, is why, if they're spraying the aluminum particulates on the tree,
right.
You're blowing my mind, because you said something that I've never thought about this one element before. Because why are they doing this? Okay, we believe our own hypothesis, and that they are doing it. But
right.
Why? What who is it, and why? And the harvesting of the wood is just blowing my mind. I've not,
Right.
I just thought they were trying to remove the oxygen out of the trees. I just thought they were trying to relocate, populations to
They are
to areas. But what if a big portion of this is just to harvest trees?
Well, that's just secondary. Make some money off it. That's every step of the way they make money. I don't go too much with the sprays here, because if they're really heavy sprays, these trees would pull that into their stomata. When it's cool, the stomata open, they bring in moisture from the air. If it's heavy sprays, it'd kill them and the whole forest would be dead. And I don't see that.
But
Here and there, I will see a dead tree here and there. But with all the droughts they've created, there's going to be a degree of dead trees. But I've not seen forest everywhere dead. So if the sprays are doing something, it's not as overtaxing on the trees as much as, say, our lungs.
maybe it's pruning it. So we used to, in mosquito control, we would prune trees back. So we would spray a defecant on the trees, and it would just prune them back. Instead of, we'd have two methods of doing that. One would be just to hit the leaves. The other would be systemic. So maybe the chemicals, because in Tahoe, it's taking an effect. Where I live, in between here and like California, Sacramento, our trees are dying. You can't smell them anymore. You can't smell a forest anymore,
Wow.
and they are dying, but it's like a slow. It's not fast. It's been like a slow death. So maybe the whole goal is not to kill the tree itself anyway.
That would be pretty shocking.
But what if the metals are falling on the property structures, and somehow with the smart meters and the directed energy weapons, maybe those metals are what is making the houses so hot and making anyway.
Yeah, I don't know, but engineering droughts, trees and other plants can only take so many years of droughts especially when they're a big system like this. They use hundreds of gallons of water every day, and if the water table is dropped below their root zone and has hardly any rainfall, they're gonna die unless they have a really good mulch on top or next to a creek or north-facing slope. I've just not seen extensive forest die. I've only found one area of lodgepole pine on the east side out of Yosemite at 10,003 or 400 feet. It was about a couple hundred yards of every tree was dead. Just one little group. And I didn't go up there and analyze them. It could have been a virus or something. I don't know. Next slide.
Well, I'm before we go on, I'm just assuming the people in these homes were also killed. I mean,
Many were, and they won't report on it on the media.
right.
You can't get the word out, even if you live there and your neighbors have gotten hit with these weapons.
Right.
Who are they going to tell? It's hard to get the word out. It really is. They own all platforms. The minute they see it, they just take it off. And the pyramid's tall. Even the police, the chief, the captain, the people upstairs, they're told what to do.
Something.
Same with the firemen.
Yeah. The trees where we are have the oranges are not coming back, and the lemons are barely coming out.
We'll probably talk about that also, because I'm seeing it here in the Bay Area. This is last year. This is your mosquito fire out of Auburn. I drove up there. I didn't find a burned up ponderosa pine. And you see little ones on the hill. They're in the flames. They're little 5-6 foot short ones, needles everywhere. They're not burning up. And here these cars are toasted. There was no grass growing in this gravel parking lot. What caught these on fire and did that kind of damage? The front rims chunked out. The back ones are melted into aluminum pile, it looks like, of liquid. Everything. This is the way I find every car, no exception. Is that crazy? Yeah. This is my friend's, what do you call those big things? Suburban. I guess 2 to 3 years ago, south of Livermore, California, we had a giant fire. That's when they burned the whole Bay Area up. He had a area out there with they're all blue oaks and a few digger pines. The grass is very skimpy there. There's not much combustible materials. And he has these old 60s cars in the background, 25 of them. They all got toasted like this. They all look the same. And there's not enough combustible materials anywhere. There's not piles of leaf mulch and thick forest mulch. It's hard pan with very light grass. If it was a grass fire, you could put a space blanket around you and run through the fire. That's how little the grass is. You don't have the combustibility rates here. And blue oaks are full of water. Took all his cars away.
Wow.
Yeah, terrible. Good friend of mine. And he'll see all these videos. He always does. Next slide. This is your Dixie fire up there, the city of Greenville. They took the whole main town away. All that's left is one gas station and a food store. This is not too far after the fire. Fire was in late summer, so this is just before winter. There was autumn colors, so it was November, December. The fire truck, they couldn't even get away. They probably got out and ran for their lives. What does that to a fire truck? And you're 40 feet from the trees. And the needles, there was needles on all these trees. I have another picture looking up. Needles and twigs everywhere. The twigs didn't burn. Amazing. Look what it did to that thing. Same fire. I believe I'm on Highway 89 heading towards Tahoe because I wanted to see the Dixie and the Caldor fire, and I did. Ponderosa pine again. Even short ones. The needles didn't burn. But yet trunks will burn. I've seen it all the way to 80 feet. And I believe that's because the cambium or cambial fluids, the nutrient uptake of the tree is just under the bark, and it's very liquidy sap. It moves really quickly to get up to the needles. So I think they were on fire because of the perimeter or just inside the bark, the cambial fluids. That's why I think they're all black like that, because there's no combustible materials on bark. It's not all big flaky stuff like eucalyptus. Fire might lap against it with the grass and then it'd soon go out, but not here. It would climb way up, but not a needle. The most combustible part of a forest is the needle or leaf, depending on species. This was everywhere in that Dixie fire. Next slide. Yeah, same thing. Take a good look at that. Unbelievable. There's a fir in there, probably a white or a red fir on the right. Now, this is in one of my other most damning photographs. As far as I know, the most combustible leaf I know is a eucalyptus. These were blue gum. You can light these on fire, a green leaf, with a cigarette lighter. I've done it plenty of times. Just light the leaf on fire. The fire went under the trees and did not ignite this grove. The leaves are even touching the ground. And that's standing on Highway 1 by the ocean. Ocean's behind me. And this is the beginning of Big Basin Park. Behind it, a couple miles, the redwoods start. That's very damning. If anybody knows anything about eucalyptus, the Oakland fire we had 20-something years ago, eucalyptus everywhere. They burned to the ground, poles, leaves, everything. And then they all grew back. Yeah, that one's a scary one. When it comes to your tires, on the tires, it's rare I find a tire like this. In the flame area, everything's black. And I moved the tire to see if somebody just put it there, playing devil's advocate. Underneath, there's a ring. It's been sitting there. So it sat there in the fire. No, it didn't melt at all. No changes, no discoloration. And on it, you see a little label, polyester core. And so there it is, polyester cord. There might be one, I hear there might be one wire in it. Okay, one wire in it, but not like the next flip picture that you hit. This is the way I find 95% of the tires. The rubber's completely gone. It's crumbs. It's not even rubberized. It's gone. And all I find is the slinky-like steel belts. This is 95 or more percent. So every time I see a rubber tire, I look for the label and I find the polyester cord. I change lenses and get a close-up lens, you know. Why would fire care about if there's metal inside a tire? Unless it's activating the metal, which, of course, brings me back to the microwave theory. This is everywhere. I've seen at least 1,000 tires, at least.
Are you saying they burn up or not?
Yep, they burn up. They get super hot from that metal. I don't know how long it takes. It could be minutes. It could be an hour. I don't know that part, but I've never seen any rubber at all unless it's the polyester core, and they're completely unaffected.
So this one you basically found it and didn't burn.
Yeah, and now 6 or 8 feet away from the other one, same area, next to the interchange. And how we made it.
Different material. You're saying one's a different material than the other one.
Right, metal inside of one,
and one is not.
And one is not. Somebody did tell me there's at least one metal wire in there. One. All right, it wasn't enough to activate the weapon, I guess. This is up in Redding, California, where they put the blonde lady, Alexandria. They blamed it on her. She started the fire. They put her in jail. She's been in jail for 2 to 3 years now. I've analyzed the fire twice, and this is still there. The whole fence line looks like this. Only the nails were burning, and the after effect is the wood in close proximity. The nails are on fire. Look at that. And it goes out between the nails where the crossboards would be. It goes out. So it's the nails. The hardware is on fire, not the wood. That's secondary, an after effect. This is everywhere I go. I can always find the wood. Weird burn patterns. That one burned a little bit longer, but look where it's centered, around the screws. This is another most damning one. That's in Mariposa. There was an old lady. I didn't get to meet her. I heard she was a botanist and she had flowers everywhere. They took her house away and all her flowers are burned to the ground. She had this wooden fence. That's the top piece that went across and held all the slats going down to the ground, I guess. I pulled it off. Each one had a tiny nail that held the boards in. It burned only where each nail was. And there's still 3 or 4 in there. If you were to zoom in, you'd see them. Unbelievable. What kind of fire does that? I didn't get a torch from home and light it on fire and burn it and put it out as I went. Only the nails were on fire. These were little, what do you call them? I don't know, 2-inch little nails. Unbelievable. This is out across the river from Benicia, where all the rivers come together, and it goes through the Vallejo or Benicia Bridge, called a little community called Port Costa with a large eucalyptus grove. The eucalyptus all look dead, none of them burned, and here is a wooden guardrail going down to their little park, so you can go fishing and boating. That's the first thing I look for, is the wood. Every wood junction like this was burned where only the screws were. Some at the ground again. Nowhere else. The screws are on fire.
That's interesting.
My girlfriend saw this one. Looks like somebody took a bite out of it, just where the nails are. This is 4 feet off the ground. Cattle country. They've got cattle roaming everywhere, and there's no combustible materials. The cattle eat the grass down to a 1/2 inch. The hay truck has to show up to feed the cattle. Yet the flying embers, like you've already heard, the 6 meaty giants, the first thing they say, those flying embers gets under the eaves. That's a favorite line, every channel. Flying embers. Well, I didn't know flying embers are attracted to metal. And then goes out. They all look the same. Not all barbed wire will be burned either. Single strands like this, not so much. I start seeing 3 or 4 wrapped together, and then I will see the burn behind the barbed wire. So it might take more of that wire, and I don't know what the metal's made of. I don't know metals very well. Amazing, huh? The ground burned. Oh, it had screws down there too, or nails. And then the 2 next portions up.
That's wild, because if it was hot enough to burn, why didn't it just keep burning?
That's right. It should have burned the post.
Something hit it, bam, triggered it, and then it just went out.
Should have dropped the nails on the ground and burned the whole post. Maybe leave the very top. Fine. It's hanging, whatever.
Right.
That's not normal at all. Fire climbs. It doesn't jump and skip wood. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Media.
Plenty of guardrails look like this everywhere. I just wanted this is my best shot. These bolts get so hot. They only, I don't know if they're red hot or what. And that's the only place they really burn. And oddly enough, I hope you have the picture. The next one. Nope. Oh, well, oddly enough, they're changing out all guardrails in California. And the bushing is plastic, and the post going in the ground is metal. There's no more wood. Anyway, we'll find it later on. I'd go back. Go back another 1 or 2. Is that it?
Okay.
Oh, okay. You were right.
Okay.
Did you notice, like, when they had the lockdowns, that there was a lot of stuff going on the side of the roads, like a lot of road work, a lot of underground work. Did either one of you notice that?
I know they put the towers up, the 5G or whatever they are, at all the elementary schools right away when there was nobody out to watch them.
Everywhere.
Well, you were mentioning replacing the piping.
Yep, we'll get to that. Those pictures are in here. This is that fawn fire again, where the lady's in jail. I've talked to her lawyer too. He acts like he doesn't want any help. This was a gentleman here, and I talked to him, and I didn't have the heart to tell him what happened. 2-story house is gone, and there's a digger pine on the left, a deodar cedar left center from the Himalayas. The rest are ponderosa pine, and one's a Canary Island pine to the right, the shaggy one. All these pines, like, the house burned like hot as hell to get to this. I mean, it was a 2-story house. Here's the pines. That's the brunt of a wildfire is the pine needles. Number 1 in a forest fire is the pine needles that make the most flames. And then once the twigs and wood get going. But first thing, didn't happen that day. Anomalies all over this fawn fire. They were everywhere. I got there early enough where they couldn't steal everything. Wow. And I was just back there in January or February when I went up to see the eagles. This is also Greenville in the Dixie Fire. These are buildings in town, shops, like little strip malls, and they're just gone, and the trees are not burned. No, they're dead, but they're not burned. And there's the cleanup crews coming with this paper on the right. Yeah, that's another whole story. Who's doing the cleanup? Who's allowed to do it?
There's a company contractor called Ickley. I think it's ICKLI. And when we had the Paradise Fires, are you either one of you familiar with New California and Paul Preston?
No.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Paul Preston, New California, and they write up declarations and they read them on the government steps. And when Paradise hit, they went in front of a government building and they had written down that Paradise Fire was a directed energy weapon fire, that the company Ickley was held responsible, the contractors who were responsible for that. So there is actually a company that is contracted out to start this stuff, to clean it up, to that's the name of the company, Ickley.
Okay.
Hmm.
Next slide. This is the same thing 2.5 years ago. I call it the Lake Sonoma fire for lack of the whatever they called it. You have Douglas fir here and redwood, but the odd thing is all these plastics didn't melt and they're stacked up. There's only one house here. They're stacked up being ready to be taken away. Plastic bags with materials. They're doing this everywhere, and they're doing it when the people don't notice. Usually before they let people back into their house, they always say, we have to make it safe first. They take everything off your property. I think the workers don't even know. They're just clearing it. But a good portion is going to be plastics, rubber, synthetics, normally combustible materials. In these fires, they're not combustible. That's everything there. Even in the back, there's some little wood stuff and all this stuff hauled away. And I'm starting to catch them more and more. If I have to get there quick. I think the empty trucks are coming in. They're clearing off your property for safety. Yeah, these should all be melted. Forest fire, and your needles are all over the trees. It's the same thing. And being a high mountain traveler, climbing 130 mountains in my life, I've been all over the whole Sierra. I've seen fires at every elevation. They don't look like this. The needles are gone. The limbs are gone. There's a few stubs maybe. The trees are burned halfway down, all different heights. Some are stumps. There's nothing like this. This doesn't make any sense at all. And it wasn't a ground fire, lest there would be green needles above. The whole tree's dead, but the needles didn't burn. Next slide. Any questions on that? The rubber and plastics?
Yeah, I mean, they're removing the evidence.
That's right.
They're taking it away, and they have these big white vehicles come in, like you said, and they're removing them before they let people on the property. I mean, they wouldn't let people on the property for the fire was near Big Bear. Just it was a blizzard. It wasn't. I'm sorry, it wasn't a fire. It was a blizzard. It's just a different weather manipulation, and they wouldn't let people on the site. You know, I've seen them do this.
That's right. And people need to be vigilant and basically go through these barriers. Hordes of people, hopefully, get their cameras, take pictures, take names. You know what? Yeah, they orchestrate this stuff years before it happens because there's so many areas. The guardrails being replaced, the plastics, things being taken off the property, and insurance people raising the prices of your fire insurance like crazy. They're a big club, like George Carlin would say, a big club, and you're not in it.
Oh, we're in it. We're the targets of it.
True.
Two companies.
Next slide.
Two companies already will not insure your home here.
That's right.
In California, there's two companies they've already pulled out. I think
State Farm. I'm going to talk to them in a couple of days. I've already found their offices. I'm going to feel them out and talk to them and see how. I want to look in their eyes. That's what I want to do.
You know what's crazy is that in Northern California now, you cannot get fire insurance. Yeah. And so the state of California is offering a rider package, and they've got a self-insured fire claim or fire insurance that the state is providing now. So not only are they creating the fires, but now they're going to profit off of people insuring on these fires.
Make money at both ends.
Yeah.
So here's your thinnest plastic you can find. Calistoga, the fire went from Highway 80 all the way to Calistoga, and it was many fires. And they say, they all joined together. This is a soil bag. And playing devil's advocate, I moved it, and there was no leaves under it at all. it'd been sitting there. To my house, 30, 40 feet away, to my left, a house is missing. And like it was hot as you can get, and leaves were on the ground. Perhaps some fell off the tree, but the plastic really didn't melt. It should have. It had a little bit of soil in it, and it had been used up. All the soil's not there. It was already half used. But here's this thin as plastic. This is sandwich bag material. Nope, didn't burn that day. Next slide. That one's not mine. That's from the internet. This is in Paradise, I believe. There's your pines in the back, dead but not burned. The building's gone, and here's the plastic water machine. There's stuff on top of it. Nobody just stuck it there for the photograph. These things are heavy. What the heck? All that heat, you think it'd still be gone from the ambient heat. Unbelievable. Anyway, so that's not mine. That's my picture in Mariposa, the Oak Fire it was called. This was behind a container freight. You couldn't see the pile from the road. They made the pile, and they got sloppy. They forgot about this pile. Whoever maybe didn't work that day when he made the pile, and the other driver of the trucks didn't see it. Plastics everywhere, across the tops, plastic, rubber like PVC pipe for water, the chair, the toe strap in there, the little potted plants, just everything, because there's metals in there too. That's why I came up with the idea. They're clearing everything off your property that's not too heavy. It's just no matter what it is. So they wouldn't know that it's just the things that should be flammable. You know, just take it all, clean it all up. They don't even know what they're doing. So I'm starting to find these, and I knew I would if I could get there quick enough. In the garbage bins, who's taking the garbage bins away? You know, is it the garbage company or somebody else? Somehow they're involved. They know they're being taken away, whether they do it or somebody else, and they have to be replaced. A lot of players in this. Yeah, house is gone. Oh, that one we already got. There was a swimming pool in Greenville. I could hardly find any plastics. I walked the whole town. I looked everywhere. This was behind a brick wall, a stone wall. Couldn't really see it from the street if you were sitting in a truck. No holes in it from the flying embers. Where are the holes? Even if it was holding water, there would be some discoloration. There'd be a hole on the top inch or two. There would be. Didn't happen. I find these a lot in trampolines. Trampolines with hardly any holes. The holes look like they're old, just from sun, you know, old wearing out trampolines that you shouldn't use anymore. I've seen many trampolines, probably 10 already. But here's this. I'm always finding the materials. They're not hard to find. And the pump and filter or whatever that is, the little cleaning thing down there, you can bet there's some metal components in there because they're a little bit disfigured and melted. Wow.
So it should have burned, and it's plastic. It didn't burn at all.
Yeah, I mean, the water's not to the very top. And even then, there's still plastic above the water. No, nope, not at all. Ground's black. Look at the ground.
This is all burned up around it.
Yeah. It wouldn't be that pristine. This is a stained property. Pools to the left, I believe. These had a little bit of melting, but not much. There's probably something there that was metal, all behind a wall. You couldn't see them. Also in that city, I asked people about the garbage bins, and they said, yeah, we have them. I looked and looked and looked. I think I found 6. They were brand new. With the felt pin, they mark them with felt pins or something. 6 brand new. Where are the old ones? They didn't melt into puddles of plastic. I would have found them. Yeah, they got there quick. This is back to the Oak Fire in Mariposa. A little lower down in elevation. Whoops.
Sorry.
House is missing. And oddly enough, here in the middle is, what was that? A walnut or a mulberry? I think it's a walnut. Walnut holds a fair amount of water, but I can't use that as an example. But there's your forest. Dead, but not really burned. A few next to the house, yes. But way in the background, where's the forest fire? No, just the metals. There's a container freight I talked about earlier down on the far right, because there was 2 houses here missing. This is damning. Lake Sonoma fire. I see this pickup truck. The windows are melted. It fell in the back. That window on the top, that's the back window of a Ford or Chevy or something. All the rubber's gone. There's the little slinky-like steel belts. But what's the plastic chainsaw doing there? I think I have that model. What? It's black and just colored a little bit, but that should be gone. With the windows melting out at 2,500 degrees, what is that plastic doing? How about that? And they didn't just stick it in there. No, I don't believe that for a second. Amazing. One of my best photos. Another picture. Now this is what's going on at a lot of the fire aftermath. Matt and John, the fire captains, told me they noticed as soon as the Paradise Fire was over, within a week or two, the road crews came out and they were digging up the metal pipes that cross under the road for all the small creeks and runoff. They're pulling metal pipes out. Now these are kind of deep in the ground. Wood fire doesn't affect them, but yet they're pulling them out, replacing them with cement like this or big rubber plastic pipes. The big, what do they call them? Corrugated black plastic pipes. One of the two, nothing else. Replace them. So I thought about that. Now I've seen it at 4 fire aftermaths. The Caldor, the Dardanelles one up on Sonora Pass Road, the Big Basin State Park one, Salinas one, at least 4 I've seen it. And only where the fire crossed the road. Those are the only pipes they pulled out. I counted them. There was 12 on the Highway 88 by Cable's Lake. I was coming back from my last trip. There was 12 pipes missing. I found them down at the gas pump by Kirkwood. There's one gas pump. The whole stack was right there, all 12 of them. And I saw them as I went by. Took the picture of cement or plastic. Nowhere else, just where the fire crossed the road. Huh.
What are you saying? It burned them? Or
no, the pipes probably, they knew they might get compromised and create a sinkhole when heavy vehicles went across. It might go in, collapse, sink a little bit, because I think the metals were compromised and they were looking ahead, getting rid of it so it couldn't happen. Change it out, put a new pipe in, new dirt, compact it, no problem. They didn't want to have that issue, especially if it happened 2 or 3 different pipes, maybe.
Oh, I see. So the metal ones would melt, but this is not metal.
They would be compromised, maybe not melt, but maybe lose some of their integrity.
And it caused problems. And
Yeah. And so they thought of everything, and only where the fire crossed the road. I've never heard of that one. They're deep in the ground. Wood fires, they don't do anything to it. Even if it's sticking out, wood fire does nothing.
Oh, right. And we had another,
There they are.
There they
12 or 11. 4.
These are the metal ones.
11. Those are the ones they pulled out. It's right by the gas station. There's snow behind it. I came through and there was snow, I think.
Really?
Oh, this is earlier. This is October last year. I've gone through there twice now. So that's what they're doing. And here we are at subalpine forest. That's a lodgepole pine. How many times have I ever seen a wildfire at the lodgepole pine level? 0. Backpacking for 48 years. Maybe a lightning strike hits 1 or 2 trees or a small grove. It doesn't burn the whole forest. That's hit or miss. There's granite here and there, and trees are usually spaced out. And farther up here, it's like that. It might be 100 feet for the next tree. Yet there's the tree all black, and there's rock everywhere.
There's this one.
So there it is. That's Cable's Lake. It's October. The aspen are changing colors a little bit. And here they pulled this thing out, and 12 of them.
Okay, so this was one of the roads you saw. And that's the pipe that they took out.
Right.
Road.
Yeah, one of those pipes went under the road there.
Yeah, there's something big time.
Amazing.
They're very, evil.
I never got the Paradise right away. I wasn't ready for all that. So I finally got there 3 years later in June. And I knew I'd find stuff. Metal post and plastic. And this is all tarnished and everything. A little melted on the end. But and I found wood. Some of those paper things here were attached to 4x4s, old wooden 4x4s that went through the fire. They weren't brand new. When the wood's really old, it has no sap in it, it's dried out, I don't think they're flammable as far as the directed energy weapons. They have to have the sap to heat up and turn black or cook from the inside out. But when they're dry posts, I've not seen them burned up unless there happens to be a nail on it. But I had other ones too, and also a doggy igloo, those white igloos the dogs hide in. There was one of those, and the whole house is gone, and here's that igloo out there, untouched. Should be black, disfigured, melted a little bit somewhere. Nope. Microwave safe.
So the mailbox made it.
Yeah. And it's a little melted on the back. Okay, that's kind of weird, but all right. This is also the mosquito fire out of, no, it isn't. It's the Caldor fire out of Dixie Flats. I got up there, and here's your plastic swing sets. There are chains in there, but the plastic didn't melt. The slide didn't melt. The ground was black everywhere. They put the caution tape up. I don't know what for. The fire's already gone. But some metals are not affected. I don't know why. See, there's metals inside these.
That's what I was wondering. I didn't
Now
want
these don't rust. They're galvanized or stainless, so that might be part of it. The coating. I don't know. That one's above my pay grade. We got that one already. We got that one. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is a walnut orchard by Vacaville. This whole place is tilled up. There's grass is super short, and there's the grass. It didn't burn much. And here's these walnut trees that carry a ton of water at ground level. They all burned at the ground and fell over, and not one leaf burned. There was, I don't know, a dozen, all in a perfect row along a country road. I think Pleasant Valley Road. Like, huh? That's where I think the ground's on fire. Lightning didn't come down and split it, hit the top and go all the way down the trunk. No. And the cavities didn't go very far up. It's from the ground, down low.
what's conducting it.
That's right. I think, oh, you said what is?
Yeah.
This is late in the year. I'm going to say water storage in the trunk. The most water's in the trunk. And right there, the most water. And the root system, of course, is going to have a great deal of it. And I've seen roots completely burned out and trees fall over. That's all I can come up with is the most water retained in any tree is the thickest part, which is the trunk.
But I mean, if the fire is coming up from the ground, I mean, the dew thing makes sense to me from, lasers up above. But if you're saying the ground is,
Yeah. And I think
ground, where is it?
my brother's an electrical designer, and he actually says it's completing a circuit like lightning, hits the ground and tries to climb back up the highest thing to complete the circuit. I don't know. Mostly I see them like this one. Same orchard, leaves are there. It burns down into the or up, whatever. The ground, the root, see that it's missing. Where'd the stump go? And when I cut a walnut down, right away, water is bubbling up everywhere. It's got it's a water pressure that's coming up to feed the leaves. And sometimes there's an inch or a 2-inch geyser coming out of the stumps. Some of these trees, like the water lovers, willows, cottonwoods, birch, alders, all those, they will geyser water up. That's how much pressure. And yet those are the first to burn from the inside out. And they should be last, of course. There was, I don't know how many of these, 12. There's probably a dozen that looked like this or worse. Amazing.
But yeah, it's crazy. And then there's the igloo.
Igloo, and I didn't want to trespass, so I don't like to go out on people's property unless I get permission. But that went through the fire. Who knows? Paradise, I got there 3 years late. I did find an old truck down the hill they didn't find. All the windows were melted out. I should have had that picture.
No, I saw terrible footage of Paradise and all the dead people
Yeah.
in cars.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It
Have
was.
you seen Paradise Rebuilt?
I've only been there the one time ever. Is that the last picture?
Yeah, that was the end of our little picture show there.
Yeah. So you see what's happening. They're not normal in the least bit. There are some similarities where the trunks are black, but when it comes to materials, there's too much evidence in the materials and also the trees, especially the most flammable trees, pines and eucalyptus. They're not burned. I missed one in there, a giant eucalyptus that fell over. I don't know how we missed it. There's a giant eucalyptus fell over 130 feet tall, right next to a road in cattle country. The cattle have eaten the grass down to a ½ inch. Here's this tree that fell over, and it's laying on its side, and it's still 7 feet thick. The whole inside was burned out. To this day, I've never seen a cavity ever in a eucalyptus tree. Not a hole where you could look inside the tree. They compartmentalize their wounds very well and seal up. When you cut a branch off, they seal right up and they're hard. Yet this thing had a gigantic, 6-foot cavity. It was 7 feet tall, laying on its side. And behind it was a T-post with the barbed wire on it for cattle. It was touching the trunk right behind it. I just thought, how hot did that post get? Just short of 4,000 degrees. And oddly, when I came back, that whole tree was gone. Every bit of it.
You know what I'm curious is to hear the testimonies from people in Australia where they've had their fires, or now Canada's having their fires, to hear what their reportings are, because we believe, I think the three of us are together right now because we collectively agree that there are people that are doing this with intent, that this isn't an accident. These aren't forest fires. This isn't normal and it's not natural. And, we all have our different ideas of how we think. I always thought that it was the chemtrails because I had always witnessed heavy chemical sprays for months on end before we had a fire. And I was seeing a correlation between sprays and fires myself. So, but I also believed in the DEW weapon, the directed energy weapon theory as well, because there's been reportings of it from people. So I'm curious to hear in other countries, because this is a worldwide problem, an epidemic of sorts. This isn't just in every state seems to be happen as well. So it's definitely not normal.
About the only thing I'd add in that category of sprays is I think it's more attacking our lungs and killing insects. Insects are your main pollinators for fruit trees. And if you can kill back a percentage of insects, especially the pollinators, a ton of trees aren't going to be very fruitful. And I'm hearing this on my Facebook from around the planet. People are talking about their fruit trees. I'm not getting this, and not every fruit tree, but I think a great deal of insects are dying, and it's going in our lungs. And I think these trees can filter it enough in their systems. Unless we see whole forests just dead. So I think that when they open their stomata and take it in, there's enough dilution in the liquids to make take it in and not kill the trees outright. Because if they oversprayed them, heavier, thicker, whatever, you would see damage. And incidentally, on the 101 corridor in Santa Rosa, there's a whole bunch of redwoods that follow Highway 101 north and south. They're dying everywhere, any size, even just planted or up to 100 feet. Only in that corridor, like they're flying right above the freeway or something. And I don't believe it's smog from the cars, because some of these trees are 100 feet tall. They've been there a long time. We've had terrible smog coming out of cars years ago. Cars are cleaner nowadays. I don't know, but too many redwoods are dying along the 101 corridor. The other thing is, you talked about Australia. Look at the pictures. Look at the eucalyptus. It's terrible. They did the same thing there. And I was going to bring that up. The fires my brother and I have researched around the world with the same technology is Greece, Portugal, the parking structure in Liverpool. Look that one up. London. Look at the parking structure. The China car factory. Fort McMurray, Canada. Santa Rosa, San Diego, Santa Barbara. All our fires in Central California. I said Greece and Portugal. Yeah. Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It's another one. All these, when you look at them, same signatures. Same thing. Even cars flipped upside down. Fires don't do this. Similar to 9/11, a block away from the Twin Towers, there was cars upside down. There wasn't a gigantic concussion that flipped cars. And everything was toasted. Same thing, toasted again. That's about all I've got on that. Any questions?
Well, I remember you saying that they were killing trees and they're not able to regenerate, where trees sometimes would grow back. And I remember you saying that.
Yeah. When it comes to the extreme water lovers, and that's the willow family, number one, willows, cottonwoods. Cottonwoods, they share the same family under the willow family. And the cottonwoods are, Fremont cottonwood all around the state. Higher mountains is the black cottonwoods with a long leaf. And then up high is the aspen. They're all populous. That's the genus, the three main ones in California. These things have so much water, you wouldn't believe it. We probably have a good 20 different willows also. When I cut those, they're spraying water out. If you're not giving them water, they die. They're in a lawn or they're next to a creek, lake, spring, reservoir, whatever. They have to have their roots wet. Sometimes in the water, they don't care. I'm finding them dead, burned from the inside out, down into the water, into the roots, and they don't grow back. I want to call that impossible. I cut them down, they grow back every time. And even if they're burned with a normal fire, they're burned, they regenerate somewhere. They're always coming back. Indestructible if they have their water. I've seen whole creek areas where they're dead and they haven't regenerated. Santa Rosa, I always go up and I stop on the freeway and there's a ditch with water in it. Finally, I think some babies have started on their own. They're not root suckers. The whole ditch with water and mud, they're dead. Also a fire north of Clear Lake on Cache Creek. That's the one that empties Clear Lake. There's a North Fork Cache Creek that comes into it farther down. Not many people know about it. There was a big fire there, a huge one. And I went hiking there. I was going to go backpacking. And I brought my fishing pole. There used to be kind of lots of fish, 6 and 8 foot pools of water with fish everywhere. I couldn't find a fish. I couldn't find a turtle, a frog, no water insects of any kind. I have my butterfly net. I'm going to do that more often. And I search under the algae all over and I pick it up and look. There's no aquatic insects. They sterilized the creek.
Wow.
Now this, I heard that fire was 2 years before. Huh?
Wow.
Fish generally work their way upstream. Or maybe it was a year. I think it was actually only a year late, one whole season. There was nothing alive in the creek. It's crystal clear. There's water plants. I couldn't find a bug anywhere.
Mhm.
I looked.
Saying they're sterilizing the water?
Well, if it's a conduit and it's electric for X amount of miles, it just kills everything. Everything organic. In the insect realm and frogs and turtle. It was beyond me. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to put my butterfly net in my truck and I'm going to start dipping it in all these creeks at every aftermath, at least a month later or something to see what is here. Oh, it was alarming. The water was crystal clear. I even drank it. And I did see a car up there that was shot full of holes. The people were having fun. The rims were melted out and they hadn't hauled it away. And there was some kids' plastic cars on top and I think inside the car. Like, why are these plastic toys here? Who knows? But that was something else. The water, the creeks, and the sterilization with the willows not regenerating. And even if there's no creek, the willows are there and other water levers. It's late in the year and there's no water, but there's subterranean water. The water's moving along underground in that creek bed. The fires will go a quarter mile staying in the creek bed. They don't even climb out of the creek bed and go up the bank like they should. Fires climb. Nope. Quarter mile down the creek bed. Only where the water source would be, even though it's subterranean. Seen that several times now.
Wow. Well, I just want to thank, you and Tiffany for basically coming on, and this has been an excellent report. And, my only hope is that, God says he will destroy those who destroy his earth. And, we have seen, it's been an hour and a half show of evidence, of what is being destroyed here. And you've laid it out very well, Robert. And I just want to thank you for that. And thank you, Tiffany, for asking some amazing questions. But I also want to thank everybody who's going to be watching this on the replay. Please make sure to share this and please comment below and let us know your thoughts and what you're experiencing in your area, your country. I'm just so thankful that we had a chance to take a look at this and analyze this. Are there any last thoughts from anyone?
Tiffany, you asked some great questions. What do you have, Tiffany?
I just, I always like to think about what can we do with this information. We know there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
What's the solution? Where do we go from here? Where do we take this information? How do we, there's something, I don't know how many people are aware that 9/11 was an inside job, that it was done by our own government. Right. It was done. And so one portion of that attack in New York was targeted at taking the safety officers out because they had pensions there were going to be many people that were going to be retiring soon with their pensions. And right now, the state of California is bankrupt and they need money. And there's going to be a lot of firemen that are getting ready to get their pensions. So if they're sending these firemen out and these fires are caustic. They're, we've seen factories burn down. We've seen some horrific fires in the state of California. And just imagine we get to run from those fires. But like my ex-husband, he runs into the fires. Mm-hmm. And, what is this doing to these safety? Robert, you're mentioning that, perhaps there's fire chiefs and people that actually are a part of this. I think, I would think that anybody who's out in the field is not going to technically be a part of this, that they actually believe, you know, what they've been taught, and, you know, and it may be too far-fetched to think that this is an attack on our soil, although it is. But I reach out to the firemen and I just ask them to consider, you know, every time you're going into a fire, you know, think about your own safety, and think about your, you know, just think about your brothers and sisters. And if you see any anomalies that align with what Robert's talking about, report them. Or, you know, it's the guys that are going into these fires right now that are going to be the ones that can really make a difference.
Yeah.
You know, it has to come from within. It really does. And so just remember that this is targeting your brothers and sisters specifically, with cancers and different things. And so this is serious. I think it's very serious. Crystal, thank you so much for giving this the time that it deserves. And hopefully, you know, there'll be some firefighters out there that will consider these topics. And, you know, as they're going out into the field to fight these crazy fires, perhaps they'll see it with a new set of lenses.
Somewhere I read a year ago, our governor installed the #1 fire person in the state. And I believe his name is Pangborn. I didn't know how they're even selected, but the main fire person of California is installed by Newsom.
I would assume, it would be my belief that that it would be somebody who's not in the field working. You have to be
I agree.
in an administrative office. And again, you know, I put a link to on Facebook, Crystal, the what you've tagged me in, to ICLEI, and everyone should look up ICLEI and what they do in your own town and cities, because Paul Preston of New California specifically named them as contributors to what's taken place in the state of California.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about ICLEI now from Deborah Tavares, and
Yeah.
there's another group in the LA area. These are United Nation constructs built by the Rothschilds to come in here, entice any way they can to get local governments to usher in new rules. And I can't go into that right now. That would be a good one for Deborah too. New rules that nobody wants. Sustainable rules.
Well, I looked up ICLEI while you were talking, and that's the first tagline they talk about is they're sustaining. Whenever they use that word sustain, that is a key word for they're going to cause us harm.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Wow. Well,
thank you, Crystal,
yeah,
for
sure.
having us on.
Yes.
It's been wonderful to see you again.
Thank you.
Share all my forensic work and knowledge. So thank you very much.
Yeah, God bless y'all. And yeah, we just heard from Robert. He made 106 trips, just in case you need to be reminded, to 38 different fires. And we basically saw most of those pictures were from him. And so thanks for everyone for watching. God bless y'all. And we're going to be back for more. We're going to talk more about this and have more conversations about what's happening and how we can stop this. So anyway, God bless y'all.
Good night.